Look, being an NFL quarterback ain't easy.
You look at your fans as you walk off the field, they look like that they have lost their last brother or sister.
Playing quarterback at the NFL level is a very tough job. Let's take a look back and pick the 5 most clutch quarterbacks and the 5 that always crumbled under pressure. Clutch, Tom Brady. It's hard to get more clutch than Tom Brady. Over his illustrious 23-year career, Brady developed a reputation for being one of the most reliable quarterbacks the league has ever seen, both during the regular season and in the postseason. And we saw this on display even in 2022, during his very twilighty last season in Tampa Bay. I mean, the guy was down 4 points with 44 seconds, yet still managed to get the job done, marking his 55th career regular season comeback victory. And he can tack on another 14 if you factor in all of the postseason comebacks he's led to. Simply a preposterous display of clutchness. With Brady, the aggregate numbers are so ridiculous that you can forget some of the amazing moments along the way, like the stunning drive that he led New England on against the Rams in his first Super Bowl victory to win the game in the closing minutes, or the legendary tuck rule game against the Raiders in 01/02. Look, there is a reason that TB12 is widely regarded as the GOAT. Crumbled, Fran Tarkenton. Fran Tarkenton was one of the most exciting quarterbacks in his generation. In many ways, he was long before his time. You know, with the way that he would scramble around in the backfield, extend the play, and fire the ball downfield. He could also advance the ball with his legs in a way that few quarterbacks of his era could. He accumulated 3,674 yards and 32 touchdowns and 675 carries throughout his 18-year career. And with all that production, he racked up quite a few accolades. He was a 3-time All-Pro selection, made 9 Pro Bowls, and even earned league MVP honors in 1975. Unfortunately, his highly decorated career did have one big black mark on it. When the lights got bright, Tarkenton always seemed to shrink. He went to 3 Super Bowls, lost all of them, and played terribly. To a combined stat line of 489 yards, 1 touchdown, and 6 interceptions. Not exactly what you want to see out of your all-pro quarterback during a clutch time moment. Clutch, Eli Manning. There are a lot of criticisms that one could spout about Eli Manning's career. Inaccurate, immobile, and so on. He was a far cry from his brother, and he was not a perfect quarterback by any means. But man, you know what he was clutch. When the playoffs rolled around, Eli always seemed to find a way to rise to the occasion. Not just in the 2 Super Bowls against Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and co., but in the playoff games leading up to the big game too. Even during the stretch run of the regular season when the Giants needed to rally to qualify for the playoffs. When the pressure was on, Eli was at his best. And he has 2 Super Bowls to show for it. Crumbled, Peyton Manning. To his credit, Peyton Manning was able to put some of the unclutch allegations to bed by finally delivering a Super Bowl to the Indianapolis Colts in 06. But even with that 1 W, he has more than enough blemishes on his resume to get pegged to the wrong side of this list. Reality is, he had some of the worst playoff outings, especially juxtaposed to how successful his and the Colts' regular seasons were. Take, for example, his 14 for 31, 137-yard, 2-interception stat line that Manning posted during the 2002 playoffs when his Colts got walloped by the Jets 41-0. Just a couple of years later in the AFC title game against another AFC East team, the New England Patriots, he squandered a strong outing from his defense against Tom Brady and threw 4 interceptions and just 237 yards as the Colts lost 24-14 and missed out on a shot to get to the Super Bowl. The following year, it was more the same, but in the divisional round, when they lost 20-3 to New England and Peyton posted a passer rating of 69.3, the worst of his season to that point. Like I said, he did exercise some of those demons, but with all the talent he and those Colts teams had, he has to catch some flack for these kinds of performances. Clutch, Joe Montana. By the pure numbers, Joe Montana may be the single most clutch quarterback to ever do it. In 23 career postseason outings, he logged a monstrous 95.6 passer rating. As a reference point, Tom Brady's postseason passer rating is 90.4. And when he got to the Super Bowl, Montana elevated his game even further in his 4 Super Bowl appearances, all of which were wins, by the way. He completed over 67% of his passes, averaged 285.5 yards per game, which was a high mark for the era, and threw 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Now, Brady does edge out Montana's 31 fourth-quarter comeback victories, but considering how dominant the Niners were at the time, that stat line doesn't exactly tell the full story. The fact of the matter is that whenever the pressure was cranked up, Joe Montana always seemed to rise to the occasion. And it is hard to get more clutch than that. Crumbled, Phillip Rivers. While Philip Rivers seems to get a pass because of the admittedly legendary move that he pulled by playing on a torn ACL against the New England Patriots in the 2008 AFC Championship game, the reality is that the Chargers' longtime Pro Bowl quarterback was never really able to deliver with the pressure on. Yeah, it was gutsy of him to play mere days after tearing his ACL, but he also completed just 19 of 37 passes for 211 yards and surrendered 2 interceptions. And maybe we would give him more of a pass on that performance if it wasn't so on par with what his typical postseason outings were like during that stretch. You know, when the Chargers were regularly one of the best regular season teams in the NFL year in and year out. Now, it wasn't just the postseason performances that illuminated his struggles in crunch time either. Check out this stat line pulled from StatHead. When trailing by a single score with 3 minutes or less remaining, Philip Rivers has thrown just 9 touchdowns to 17 interceptions and has posted a 57.1 passer rating. That is a tough look from a guy who is supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks of his generation. Clutch. Roger Staubach. There's a reason that the legendary Dallas Cowboys quarterback Roger Staubach was regularly referred to as Captain Comeback. 15 fourth-quarter comebacks in 8 seasons as a Cowboy starter may not seem that impressive at a glance, but keep in mind, Dallas really wasn't trailing in all that many games to begin with. He also has an extremely impressive postseason resume. Staubach led the Cowboys to 11 wins, 2 Super Bowls, and much of that success came from Roger putting the team on his back. Roger also has a pretty epic feather in his clutch cap, in the form of that legendary Hail Mary that he delivered during the 1975 divisional round against the Minnesota Vikings. Dallas was down 14-10 with 32 seconds left, and Staubach delivered a dime downfield to Drew Pearson at the 5-yard line. He stumbled into the end zone and boom, game Cowboys. I mean, think about it. Staubach is literally credited with inventing the Hail Mary, and that's essentially a footnote on his epic career. This guy has to be considered one of the most clutch quarterbacks to ever do it. Crumbled. Jim Kelly. This one pains me to do because by all accounts, Jim Kelly is a great guy. And he led one of the league's most charming franchises, the Buffalo Bills, to unprecedented success during the 1990s. But unfortunately, based on his track record, he has to be pinned on this list. Now, it isn't just that he never won a ring, but more so that he went to and lost 4 straight Super Bowls, which frankly seems impossible. And to make matters even worse, Kelly didn't play up to his all-pro standards during those games either. Playing under the bright lights of the Super Bowl, Kelly threw 7 picks to just 2 touchdowns. Yeah, not exactly great. And his total playoff numbers are a far cry from the kind of numbers that he'd put up during the regular season as well. In 17 career postseason games, he completed less than 60% of his passes and threw only 21 touchdowns compared to 28 interceptions, while averaging around 227 passing yards per. It's sad to say, but Jim Kelly was always prone to crumbling under the pressure. Clutch Ken Stabler. Ken Stabler had a Hall of Fame career, but if you just glance at his career numbers, you might wonder why he landed in Canton. After all, he completed less than 60% of his career passes and threw 28 more interceptions than he did touchdowns. But, and this is a big but, Stabler had a couple of great seasons, including 1974 when he won league MVP honors, leading the Raiders to an 11-2 record in his 13 starts, throwing for 2,469 yards and 26 touchdowns to just 12 interceptions. And more importantly, he was one of the most clutch quarterbacks that the game had ever seen. He led the Raiders to 5 consecutive AFC Championship games between 1973 and 1977, which was a record for almost 40 years until Brady snapped it in 2016, and regularly overachieved during the postseason, even leading the Raiders to a Lombardi Trophy in Super Bowl 11. In 13 career playoff games, he threw for 2,641 yards and 19 touchdowns to just 13 interceptions. Might seem pretty modest to today's standards, but let me tell you, he was legit. And he gained a bit of a reputation for making ridiculously improbable plays happen when the pressure was at its highest. Stabler was as clutch as they come. And a story. Crumbled Dan Fouts. Dan Fouts is one of the men responsible for what the modern NFL looks like in terms of passing the football. He, along with head coach Don Coryell, ran a pass-heavy offensive scheme of the likes the NFL had never seen before. As a result, Fouts put up monster numbers and seemed to break passing records every single year. From 1979 until 1982, he led the league in passing, which is a pretty tough thing to do for 4 straight years. He also became the first player in history to throw for 4K yards in 3 straight seasons. The point is, he was a hell of a quarterback, and the Chargers were a great team. But for all the regular season success that he and the team found, they always seemed to struggle once the postseason rolled around. In fact, Fouts qualified for the postseason just 4 times in his career, and when he did, his performance fell off a cliff. He went 3-4 in 7 starts, completing just 55.6% of his passes and threw only 12 touchdowns compared to 16 interceptions. For this reason, we have to besmirch the name of a Hall of Famer that helped to revolutionize football as we know it. Sorry, Dan. But which NFL quarterback do you think was the most clutch? Who was the worst choker? Was there anyone that we missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.